E aí, galera, tudo bom? Estou aqui como a host convidada de hoje. Novamente, a nossa querida Andrea Maria não pôde estar aqui com a gente, mas eu espero fazer aqui uma boa entrevista para vocês, porque eu estou com eles. Hi, guys. Can you introduce yourselves real quick for Voice of Hub followers and all of your Brazilian fans?
Hey Brazil, and my name is Gawin. I play Thong.
My name is Josh, and I'm the vampire.
First of all, actors from Y series are often labeled as such, and it might be limited to one certain role because of people's expectations. But you guys have been in the game for a while, in both BLs and Lockhorns and whatnot, and taking a lot of different roles and partnerships and challenges in your career. You guys are like the royalty of breaking such expectations in your career, I would say. So we would like to understand, for you guys, what's being an actor truly means specifically.
Wow, that's a great question. For me, I think it's about understanding different character, understand human being, because in every series, lakon or movie, there's a character. It's not a fake, but it's a character that is written from a script. He or she could be, it could be anybody. So I think it's about understand this perspective where people do certain things and trying to understand and be empathize with others and put yourself in their position and just kind of like, because human being, we do things differently. That's for me. That's just like understand human being, the differences.
For me, acting, I don't know, I might get different answers for everyone, but
I want honesty, and everything that you gave us is what we're gonna get. So give it a go.
It's really like you said, understanding that person, understanding the whole situation. Like you read the scripts, you know what your character is like. You already made like the background or whatever. But like at the end I think it's like we're like playing, we're like kind of like children playing and like pretending to be someone. And I think that's like the fun thing about it. It's like like play, like I said, it's like playing and not being yourself. I think like being someone else, that's like the most fun thing about acting, I think, and what acting is all about, using your imagination to be like completely a new character.
Like to be forever a kid, right?
Yeah, kids playing. I heard it from someone. Yeah, but
yeah. Sounds like fun. Sounds like fun, and you guys been very playful with each other, and you said that it was probably not going to be the answer that I wanted, but I think it fits perfectly for what we've been seeing as as a result of your guys working together and how your chemistry is kind of playing out and showing maybe a different side that people were not seeing until now. Which kind of leads me to the next question, because we already know that you guys clicked and matched instantly off screen. But since it's your first series together as an on-screen couple, what was the most challenging thing about building the first moments of tension or connection between your characters?
For the character, I think the script itself, it's just about understanding the script and where the character is coming from, why our character do certain things, just understanding their backgrounds, understanding who they are as a person, creating as much background and history as much as possible, and just sort of like let loose and be there, and whatever happened in the scene, happened in the scene, because I don't think, like, as an actor we have to read the script, memorize it, and weirdly enough we have to forget about it and just be at the moment. um, yeah, but as for outside the screen, I think it's just about getting to know each other as well, being comfortable around each other. And for me, it's like we speak English with each other, so it's fun for me to like make him laugh and make him shy, kind of like the word for the Gen Z is like risk him up, you know.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy that, but I usually fold before, but now it's different.
I'm gonna agree just for sakes of, I'm polite, but we're seeing what's happening out there, so let's leave it to the audience to decide who's folding who.
Yeah, that's the one of the downside of digital footprints. When I say something, like, yeah, I'm not really shy, and the fan just threw me 10 different clips of me.
I mean, it's the internet, man. That they will have proof. They will have proof.
How does it feel to be kissed by your idol, Josh? Who asked this question? Give me that.
If I can, bro. Do you see, like last time?
This guy's always like, oh, I don't want to.
I don't want to, but I can. That's the thing.
What are you?
And for me, what's really challenging is I think during the first couple of filmings, first couple of days of filming, like when you actually like being on set together, and I think I personally still like struggle a little bit on like the first few days of the set, because it's like we're still trying to find a character kind of, but like once you find that that sweet spot or whatever, the director kind of tells you like, is this enough, like kind of like once you find that spot, then it's really like not that difficult afterwards. So I think it's just stick with the situation and how like the character feels. Know what that character is feeling. Know what they want in that scene, and then stick with that.
Perfect. I see. And I want to know also, what's the hardest part about acting in a fantasy series like My Golden Blood, which portrays vampires? Or, have you ever imagined yourself in these roles? Especially Charles, that he's the vampire here.
Yeah, no, honestly, I never thought that I would suit to be a vampire until very recently, because I would see typical vampire. They're a little bit more on the pale side. I thought, but I'm like I have tan skin, so tall, and I thought I would be like a little bit towards like werewolf, but apparently people told me I have the vampire look, so I embrace it, and it's just cool for me because I love vampire in general, and I think there's some aura about them, how they're so like their looks, calm, like reserved, but yet that they have that eyes where they're like could be very scary and cold, so. And the elements of just being like a demon, being like this beast who's thirst for blood, who have this urge to kill, urge to like drink blood, and you have to control himself. I think that's really cool.
For me, I guess it's like, for the fantasy aspect, I think like imagining is probably the hardest thing. But you kind of need to know, like, for example, like in a scene we have like a butterfly like flying
Yeah.
towards our face. So like you kind of have to know like what you're looking at, and like you have your eye line has to like follow that. I think that's really tough for like those aspects.
Yeah.
But yeah, the imagining what is not like something is not actually there, but you have to use a lot of your imagination.
I
Yeah.
like to add a little bit about challenging part for me. It's just about understanding vampire in this setting is that they don't have any emotions except like thirst for blood. But this series is about a relationship between human and vampire who has tasted the golden blood and slowly become human. So understanding human emotions in general, about their senses, their temperature, smell, touch, taste. So experience, like imagining what it's like to taste or smell things for the first time. I think that was, I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's quite interesting for me.
Yeah. And it's good that Joss mentioned that you never thought to see yourself as a vampire because of how overall media and always portrayed it, vampires in movies and whatnot. And I'm curious to know, is there any iconic vampire character that's already known to most people that you guys maybe would like to reinterpret with your own take and flavor, maybe?
Well, I mean, my favorite vampire movie is Dracula Untold. That is for me like the best, and I look up to that character a lot. He's played by Orlando Bloom, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
ไม่ใช่เหรอ Oh, ไม่ใช่ Luke Even. Luke Even, yeah. Luke Even, yeah, sorry. Yeah, he's really cool, and it's about like this monster who has to sacrifice himself to become a Dracula to protect his family, protect his kingdom, and he gets hated for it. And I think it just, for me, it hits me because I think for me it's like being a protector and provider and having to sacrifice yourself for others. It just feels really, really respectable and really cool. So.
And also a lot of action scenes, because we've seen. Yeah, I mean, you've been doing good with your action scenes for My Golden Blood, and that movie has a lot him against the whole, horde of soldiers.
That's really cool to have like a certain power, speed, and super strength. Yeah.
Yeah. Gawi, would you like to be any iconic vampire if you could?
I love vampire movies, and the recent one I really like Lestat in Interview with the Vampire, and I like his powers too. He can like kind of like stop everything around him. I don't know if it's like stop time or whatever, but yeah, I really love that character. He's like, when he's on screen, he's like really just, there's something about him you can't stop like watching him. Just something about him. And
I think there's certain like sexual energy when it comes to like vampire, right? There's something very raw.
Very like, he talks like his way of talking. I don't know how to explain it.
Very seductive.
Yeah, very seductive.
Yeah.
He like,
and Lestat it's a character, not only this latest interpretation, but this particular vampire has always been portrayed very sensually and very endearing, or like he specifically is a vampire that has like a sassiness, like a cold sassiness to him that I could definitely see you putting some Gawing flavor there and delivering something for us. Hey, GemMTV, type if you're listening to us. I mean, a follow-up, My Golden Blood, why not? It's on the maybe pile. So yeah, talking about fantasy genre that portrays vampires, it actually has everything to do with queer themes. You know, they portray, as we were saying, power and love and transformation. You know, yet there are a few fantasy series or movies portraying this type of relationships. How do you guys feel about being part of a story that, in a way, breaks this pattern and delivers something new for, you know, the LGBTQ audience, and, you know, breaking kind of some of the stereotypes for otherwise series out there?
I personally have like not sure if we did that, but like if that's what happened, then like I'm really like glad that people see it that way, and yeah, we really want to try like to be try different things, you know.
Yeah,
We really
because
wanna try-
this, I think in particular, it's about love story, and obviously, it's between like Mark and Thong. So I'm not sure if like if it is like representing the community. Like we're really happy about it.
It's just about the story. That's the priority, right?
Yeah, because we talk to our director as well, and he want us to just focus on, you know, the relationship part. But, you know, as like, you know, it's like a bonus point if we get to represent the community as well, for sure.
Perfect. And I know that you guys were probably already hearing this a lot, but, you know, maybe you have a change of heart. But if you guys were a true vampire, you have to, you know, give up any power, because, you know, vampires have many white god. What the powers would be, and like if you have to choose how powerful or what you could do as a vampire.
Special power?
Mm.
I like mind control.
Oh, hey,
I know it's quite sneaky and it can be used in a very in the wrong way, but I believe in myself. I will do that. I use that power for good. Obviously, some to benefit myself, but
don't give him the power. No.
Sounds dangerous, but I mean, it's your power. It's your power.
it's power. So yeah.
I always say I would like to control time and stop time, but I want to change today. Maybe I don't know.
I think by having super strength and speed is already like
Yeah, those are like the basic powers of vampires. So they are.
we'll probably, you know, go to the Olympics and bring Thailand the medals.
Man, you have special powers and you want to go to the Olympics.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a free judgment zone, I swear. But I think Gawain needs a better power, special power, because it's just gonna have the mind control thingy, and you were that worried. So I think you need something to shield yourself, maybe.
Like Bella.
Maybe I would like to talk to animals. Maybe
What?
control the animals. Have a swarm of bats. Power. Defend me against the show.
I see. We're going. We are going mind over matter here. Let's see who wins. Okay. So as we were saying, we're talking about all of these vampire stories and all of these iconic characters. But in your personal opinion, what's the it factor in My Golden Blood that's making the series so successful so far?
The it factor. I think he's the it factor.
Oh, I think he's the it factor.
I don't know. I think without, I think the story, the title of the series is My Golden Blood. So a boy with a special blood. So actually the story is not really about the vampire. It's actually about him and about a boy who has special blood who's wanted by the vampires, and eventually he has to all the things that he has to go through, right? So he pretty much like carry the show by just think about. I personally think Thong is the hardest character to play because all the things that he has to go through, being young and innocent, but have such a immense power. So I think it's definitely, yeah, and he plays it really well. You can ask the fans.
Thank you.
Mm.
But yeah, for me, it's like seeing him on the set, seeing him on the screen. I think like he really has that that vampire or that the animal, whatever it is, the tough guy. Or I just feel like it really like suits him like really well, with the vampire, and like just really interesting how his emotion develops throughout the
Oh yeah,
throughout the series.
yeah,
That's
probably
like
that's
really
it. Yeah,
really,
the
like,
character
interesting.
development
Yeah.
for both of us. I think for Thong, from innocent guy to episode 8,
I
just
think-
kind of like calm Mark down and try to like take his shirt off. You know what I'm saying?
I think like in a way, if Thong's graph is like this, like emotional guy, and Mark is here, with someone with no emotion. So I think throughout the series, they kind of
Mm.
go towards
Yeah.
each other. Thong kind of
Yeah.
it's like a lot of like scary stories or a lot of like loss or something. So his emotions like coming down a little bit. His innocence.
Yeah.
You can say.
I will have to agree with all of that. So, yeah, I agree. Can you please? We're getting to the final stage of our conversation here. So, can you please leave a message for Boys of Hub followers and your Brazilian fans?
Just we're really glad that we're here, and we're really glad that we get the opportunity to like be in the series, and like really feel like a lot of love from you guys. Like I don't know how to say it. I've been like when I walk into like shops or when I go to malls, I've been getting like a really good energy like from all
Yeah.
around. But yeah, it's really love it like throughout the series, and really been a roller coaster ride.
And we're really grateful, for the fans that they enjoy the show. I think a lot of fans, they have been waiting for the series to air. It was start the project in 2023, and finally it's here, and we're almost at the end. So we appreciate all the support and love. And yeah, there's only 3 episodes left, and prepare some tissue. You guys are gonna feel a lot of emotions. It's gonna be intense, and hope you guys enjoyed the rest of the show and as well as the music as well. I think there's like 3 songs, so
Yeah, we enjoyed the songs too.
hope you guys like it.
Perfect. And just to finish, can I teach you guys a phrase in Portuguese?
Please.
For sure.
Perfect. So there's this one phrase that kind of became iconic for the fans, especially here. That it's basically saying, "I know what you are, a vampire." That I know that it sounds simplistic, but the internet's loved it, the delivery. So we just want the Brazilian in Portuguese version of you guys saying that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's go. I'm not the best language teacher, but let's go. Eu sei
Eu sei
Eu sei
o que você é.
o que você é.
o que você. Eu sei.
Eu sei o que você é.
Vampiro.
Vampiro. Eu sei
Eu sei
Eu sei o que você é.
o que você.
eu sei o que você é.
Vampiro.
sei.
Wait, let's go. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Eu sei fio.
Oh,
sorry.
eu sei.
It's all good. Eu sei o que você é.
Eu sei o que você é.
Um vampiro.
Vampiro.
Eu sei
E o quê?
O que você é.
o que você
Isso. Um vampiro.
Vampiro.
Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Eu sei o que você é. Vampiro.
Perfect. I know Portuguese is a very hard language, so thank you so much for giving it a go. So thank you guys. Thank you everybody that has been watching. I hope that you guys like it. Then again, we will have our amazing Mari, our main host of Boys of Pub, soon enough here with us in the future. Thank you so much, Boys of Pub, for having me. Thank you so much, Jaws and Gowing, for your time and your honesty. So I hope you had a good time. And maybe we will talk soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Eddie.
much. We had a great time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.